Kindly introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
My name is Wawira Njiru. I am the founder and CEO of Food for Education, where we provide nutritious meals to school kids in public schools across Kenya.
I want you to take us back to the very beginning. What inspired you to start this massive program?
So it did start off massive. It started with just 25 children, and the reason why I started was because I heard from public schools in the area that I grew up in Ruiru, that the biggest issue kids were having when they were coming to school is they were fainting, you know, they were lacking meals, so they were running away from school, and it was a big need that they didn't have meals in school. So I didn't have much. I was an international student in Australia at the time, so I used to come back for holidays, and during one of those holidays I decided to start a small school feeding program for the 25 children.
You saw the gap and you took that action. I want you to just briefly tell us the challenges that you experienced then, and where did you get the funds from?
That's a good question. So the challenges that I experienced then when I was seeing the gap was as kids were fainting, you know, they were running away from school to get jobs so that they could feed themselves. There was a nearby market in the first school that we started in, and kids would run and go start begging for food in that market. So they are not staying in their school. Like you can imagine a child who's supposed to be learning in the afternoon decides, I have better things to do because I'm hungry, so I need to go find food. And hunger is a basic need. If you're hungry, you can't do anything. So that challenge for me was very basic, that a child would think, obviously, let me run away from school so that I can go find something to eat. That is the challenge I was trying to address, that children should stay in school, they should learn, they shouldn't have the barrier of thinking about food when they're supposed to be in school learning.
And having interacted with these kids at that level, seeing the experiences, the challenges they're experiencing, how did that impact you at a very personal level?
It was very sad for me at a personal level because, you know, I didn't grow up with so much, but I can say I never went hungry, right? My parents, when I was growing up, they were building a house that we were living in, as many Kenyans do. You know, they put the floor when you're there, they put the toilets when you're there and things like that. But at the same time, you're not going hungry. So to imagine that there is a more basic way that children are living and families are living where they don't have access to meals, that was very heartbreaking for me. When we started providing meals to the kids, one of the things we saw is, you know, they would take that food and even take it home to their parents. And that was a very clear picture that there's a problem in school and there's a problem at home. And this means this meal is very important for these children.
And that's how Food for Education started. How has it been so far?
So far, it's been very exciting. Can say it's about 12 years into the journey. So the first, 25 children, I did a small fundraiser in the community in the town that I was living in at the time as an international student. It's called Adelaide in Australia. I raised a bit of money, about 125,000 shillings, built a mabati kitchen, had one cook stove, started feeding for the 25 children. And we remained small for a while until I finished uni, started thinking about, do I need to find a job? Do I need to work on this full time? So there was a bit of those years of being very small and being very I was still a student. But once I decided to work on it full time, then it became even more exciting because you're feeding more children, but more challenging because you have to hire a team, you have to build structures, you have to build systems, you have to build more kitchens because the need is much bigger than I anticipated. In the first school, I thought if we feed this 1,000 children, or I think there were 800 in that school, that will be enough. Then you go to the next school and it's the same issue. The next school is the same issue. So we really needed to come up with something that could feed children at scale. And that is a very exciting journey that we've been on.
How many children are you feeding today?
We're feeding about 300,000 children every single day.
Every single day?
Yes.
That's impressive. I want us to talk about the impact at grassroots level. How has it impacted women and children?
That's a good question. 74% of our staff are women. This is because we hire from the communities. So the parents of these children are actually the ones who are cooking for them in the kitchens. So you'll find, you know, single mothers or women in the households. At first, men didn't want to do the job of cooking. Now they've started saying like it's a job that can support you. So that's why we skewed a lot towards women, because women were very willing to take on a job to cook for their children. So they'd come, we train them, because you can imagine a woman who cooks at home may not have the skill set, very likely doesn't have the skill set to work in a kitchen like this. So you take that person, you train them, you teach them you know, standards and procedures around cooking at scale, and then you now work with them to be able to provide the meals. So having women at, you know, 74% of our team is very, very exciting. They work together, they are cooking for their children, you know, it's very, very something that, you know, you see they have a lot of pride in, because they say, my kid is eating this food. My child is the one who's telling me, Leo mom, you put a lot of salt in the food. You know, Leo mom, you can put a little bit of that and things like that. So that feedback is coming very straight from the families. Also the children, you know, the children have been impacted, over 300,000 children. The kids who we started with are the first 25 children. Now they're adults. Some of them even work for us. So we brought them back so that they are working in our team and cooking for other children who are like them.
That's nice.
Yeah.
As a founder, a female founder for that matter, what are some of the challenges you've experienced along the way?
The challenges are very many as a female founder. And then also compounded by, I started at 21, so I was very young. So, you know, you're young, you're a woman, you're not very tall. When you talk to people, they're just like, who are you? You know, what are you talking about? So being taken seriously and kind of like getting people to see that there is a need and we have a solution that can help solve that need has been something that continues to be challenging. I mean, much less now than we were smaller, but I think that's something I've really had to overcome. That bias that if you're young, if you're a woman, you don't have a lot to offer. And so especially that's one of the challenges. The other challenge is, you know, you're building a team. A lot of times I've hired people who are much, much older than me. You know, you're not hiring like your age mates or people who are younger than you. So also learning how to create that level of respect, that level of mutual respect for them and for you, so that you can be able to work together to achieve the mission. So I think building a team is something that as a woman, you know, a lot of times I struggled with. You know, you're telling a man what to do, and they say, "Ata bibi yangu niambiangi what to do." So how can you tell me what to do? But obviously, I'm paying your salary, so it's important that we're able to collaborate to achieve the mission. Okay. Yeah. So I think that, you know, being a woman and being young is very positive, right? I think I wouldn't change any of it. It set me on the trajectory, because also when you're a woman, you have higher EQ. So you can understand, how do I have this conversation with this person in a way that enables them to see my point and not feel like, you know, I'm intimidating them or I'm trying to talk them down. So for example, if you have someone on your team who's not listening, how can you have that discussion in a way that's more collaborative? So high EQ, high ability to be able to also see, you know, women are intuitive. So that intuition, that ability to say, okay, here I see there could be trouble. Here I see that we could organize this to have more impact. We need to do this, we need to do that. So I think being a woman gives you that advantage. I'm not saying men don't have that advantage, but I think women are way more intuitive when it comes to how to approach things.
Okay, yeah. And challenges aside, you've also won a lot of awards globally, a clear indication of the impact that you're making at the community. Take us through that process.
So being recognized both here at home and globally is such an honor. It continues to be such an honor, because I didn't start Food for Education for awards or for recognition. So it's I always say it's a bonus, right? Because even if no one was seeing what we do, we'd still be doing this work. But it's such an honor and the recognition from global entities, local entities around the work that we're doing, because the impact is so visible and the impact is so clear, and it's every single day that a child walks up to school, they know we'll be there to be able to provide them with meals. So it's been such an honor, and I'm excited for the journey ahead.
Cooking usually starts at about 2 a.m. So we get our cereals from our central warehouse, we get our rice, beans, green grams and western, and also for our vegetables we get it from our local farmers, such as Twiga, Farmworks.
And the safety measures, how do you ensure that the food that is cooked here, the food that leaves this place, is secure and healthy for the kids?
So once we're done decanting, we usually have to measure the temperature. There's usually a standard temperature that the food is supposed to have at dispatch and at serving time. So once for every particular vessel that we get, for example, I'll use an example, vessel 5, we'll have to take the temperature for vessel 5. We'll have to know where exactly the vessel 5, which schools it's going to. Even if it's like 5 schools, we'll have to record it somewhere. After we're done taking the temperature, we seal the food containers that we usually use. And then when they're loaded into the truck, once they're at the service level where they're being served, there's usually a server or the TSM who's in charge. They'll have to ensure that the food is sealed. If it's not sealed, they'll have to report back to us so we can find out what happened between the moment the food was dispatched to the moment they received the food.
And what kind of foods do you provide for these kids?
We usually cook, we have 3 different types of meals. There's rice and western, rice and beans, and also rice and green grams. Yeah.
And being part of this project, how does it make you feel?
I think the best thing that you usually get is during lunchtime, you usually get excitement when the kids see the food, they see the truck, and then after they're done eating, they're like, the food ilikuwa tamu. So that, I think that's the best part. That's the part that pushes us forward. It gives us our passion every single day.
And how many kids do you feed on a daily basis?
Here it's 60,000 meals.
60,000
meals.
Yes,
at Giga
made
Kitchen.
here every day?
Every day.
Okay.
Yeah.
That must be a tall order. What are some of the challenges that you experience?
Majorly the challenges that we experienced was getting people to adjust to the 60K meals. But eventually, like, we found a rhythm on how things can work, and now everything's really good.
So you're going to show us around here.
Okay.
We get to see what happens in this big space.
So here we have storage. You can see there's some vegetables. The kids are on midterm right now. So when they come back on Monday, we have onions, tomatoes. There is salt, there's cooking oil. So we make sure that, it's good cooking oil, it's fortified, there's salt, and then all the meals get vegetables. So they're weighed here, and then they're taken out.
Okay.
Yeah.
And some people might not know this, that you have a background in nutrition. How do you ensure that the kids receive a nutritious meal?
Yeah, that's a good question. So actually, I am a trained nutritionist, and that was how initially we designed the meals. To make sure that they're as nutritious as possible. So we make sure that they have, enough protein. So that's your beans, your dengu, your lentils. They have vegetables. Some school feeding programs don't put vegetables in the meals, but as we insist, we have to put vegetables in the meals. If we were cooking tomorrow, you'd see carrots here. We also put carrots. That's your vitamin A that's coming in. You have your beans, high in iron as well. And then you have rice as your carbohydrate, or sometimes you do maize, not so often. So making sure that kids are getting, first of all, vegetables, the micronutrients that they need, and then they're getting their protein from beans or lentils. It's a balanced diet, which is something that I think parents really value, that the meal is very balanced for the children. Yeah.
How does the model work?
So the model works through, first of all, central kitchens. That's our first primary model. So we have central kitchens. These central kitchens, they produce meals and then they're distributed to schools. We've tweaked it sometimes in rural areas, because in rural areas it's very hard to do a big central kitchen and then distribute because the schools are very far from each other. But mostly in urban areas we're doing the central kitchens and then we're distributing using trucks. In rural areas, we're doing smaller kitchens, and then we're distributing sometimes using motorbikes. One of the things that we make sure in the model is that there is sustainability. So we involve parents, they contribute for the meals, depending on the level of the subsidy. So most parents, initially when we started, because I was a student, I couldn't afford to provide meals to many children. So I asked the parents, what can you contribute? They said 15 shillings. So they've been contributing 15 shillings, and then when we work with government, sometimes the meal is very subsidized. So like in Nairobi County where we are, the meal is at 5 shillings for the kids. So the same meal, the same nutrition, but a much reduced cost.
So it's 5 shillings a plate?
5 shillings a plate.
Okay.
In Nairobi only. In other places, it's 15 shillings. or depending on the partnership that we have.
Why the difference in prices?
Because when the cost is subsidized by government, it goes lower. But when it's subsidized by philanthropy, which is mostly other places are being subsidized by donors, we can't take it as low as much as government can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Future plans?
So future plans, we want to feed as many kids as possible. We're now at 300,000 kids. We're aiming at 1 million by 2027.
That's impressive.
Yes, so I think we'll achieve it. We've come this far, but it takes more kitchens, more collaborations, more partnerships to be able to ensure that the impact is reaching children every single day.
And you've mentioned collaboration.
Yes. Any
call out to people who might want to partner with you?
Yes, for sure. So if you want to partner, if you want to see more about our work, www.food4education.org. We're also on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on all major platforms. You can reach out to us and we can collaborate in the area that you're in. Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
bringing us to this beautiful
Thank
space.
you.
What you're doing here is remarkable.
Thank you.
We hope to meet out there.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Asante.
Asanteni.
Okay.
Yeah.